Are you seriously writing me up for planting daisies, Denise? My trowel still in the dirt, sweat drying on my brow when she levels the clipboard like a judge. Section 3.2, non-conforming flora at the curb. You have 72 hours or will escalate to formal fines. Her voice sounds almost gleeful, like she's been waiting all week to say it. I smile, just a little. You know that property line? My father marked it himself, surveyor's records. I've got the original deeds if you want to compare signatures. Denise's jaw tightens. She's not used to being challenged. You can try to bury me in paperwork, but the roots here go deeper than you think. That's my opening shot. Name's Evelyn Morgan, and no, I'm not the easiest target in Hollow Oaks Estates. I'm a landscape architect, a widow, and I inherited this house, the whole acre, when my parents passed. The garden, not a hobby. It's family history, a patchwork of every stubborn generation that came before me. My mother's wild roses, my father's pecan tree, even the battered trowel in my hand. They all mean something Denise can't grasp, no matter how many rule books she weighs. Hey, if you're here for the fight, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Maybe your HOA is just as bad. Stick around, because this story, it only gets messier from here. You want to know why daisies matter so much? My mother planted them the year she got sick. She said they'd outlast her, as long as someone keeps weeding. The day we buried her, those same daisies burst through a patch of frost. I've kept them alive ever since, even when my father was too tired to care, even when I thought about selling everything and running. The way Denise stares at them, like they're a threat. It tells me exactly what kind of war we're in. She tries again, pen clicking in her hand. Rules are rules, Evelyn, no wild growth, no exceptions. But I don't flinch. Show me where it says no daisies, Denise. Point to it. Her mouth opens, but I can see she's bluffing. The rules change every month depending on whose backyard she wants to police. It's not about code, it's about control. A few neighbors pass by on their morning walks, Beth and Ron Wells, all faux smiles and lowered voices. I hear Beth murmur, "She's always in her yard, isn't she?" Denise straightens, glancing their way, feeding on the performance. The sidewalk feels colder. Hollow Oaks looks picture perfect, but every hedge has eyes. I kneel to pull a weed near the edge, not because it needs doing, but because I want to make Denise wait. Was it the mailbox last week? I ask, not looking up. Or was it my daughter's car? Denise bristles. She doesn't like being reminded of her last defeat. Maddie's parking job was 2 inches off, and I fixed it before the warning even hit my door. It's all in the records, Evelyn. Don't test me. She tries to stare me down, but I'm not moving. Listen, I say, voice low. My father built this house with his hands. Every tree, every stone, it's all he left me. I'm not letting you erase it because you like your lawns sterile and your sidewalks empty. For a second, Denise's facade cracks. Just a flicker of uncertainty, maybe even guilt. But it's gone in a blink. She flips a page, and I can see my name written in red. I'll be back Thursday. If it's not handled, we'll escalate. Her shoes click down the walk. She doesn't look back. I sit back on my heels, trowel digging into my palm. The sun's just starting to rise behind the pecan tree, painting the old porch in gold. I hear Maddie's voice from inside, shouting about lost keys and coffee. The house creaks, settling, remembering. This is more than a lawn. This is a line in the sand. Funny thing about daisies, they come back, no matter how many times you cut them down. I trace the initials on my mother's trowel. Worn, nearly rubbed smooth. That tool's been in every argument this yard's ever had. I can almost hear her. If it matters, don't let go. I won't. Thursday's coming, and so is Denise, and I know this isn't about flowers. It's about whose story gets to stay rooted here. I brush dirt from my hands, heart steady. Maybe I'm alone on the curb right now, but this fight's just starting. Maddie's laughter spills from the kitchen, mixing with the low hum of the kettle. I press my hand to the window, watching Denise disappear around the bend, clipboard tucked like a weapon, heels biting into the pavement. Every inch of me aches to slam the door, but I won't give her the pleasure. Not today. And inside, the air is warm, honeyed by lights slipping through lace curtains. My mother made those tiny violets sewn at the corners. They match the ones in the back garden. I trail my fingers along the kitchen counter, feeling the weight of all the days we spent here. Shelling peas, sorting mail, arguing about nothing and everything. Today the house feels more like an ally than a refuge. Maddie glances up from her phone. You let her walk all over you again? Her hair's a wild mess, cheeks still sleep-creased. She hides her worry and sarcasm. Always has. You want me to park my car in the driveway or the front yard for effect? I can't help but smile. Maybe the roof. Next week it'll be a violation if we breathe too loud. We sit across from each other, elbows on the table. She pulls out her laptop and opens the Hollow Oaks digital handbook. They rewrote this thing again. See here? Permitted flora shall be uniform in appearance and height as designated by the Architectural Committee. There's not even a list of what's allowed. She scrolls. And look at this. Interpretation of standards is at the sole discretion of the board president. That's Denise. Her voice is acid, sharp as vinegar. I take the laptop, reading the clause twice. It's written in a way that means everything and nothing at once. A legal trap in soft script designed to wear you down until you give up. I remember my father's voice, gruff and tired. Never sign a blank check, Evie, and never trust rules that only make sense for the powerful. I close the laptop. They want us exhausted before we even start. Maddie leans forward, voice low. If you want me to call someone at the county office, I will. I can ask about the original easements, Mom. Or maybe we just mow down the daisies, let it go for a while? The words sting. She means well, but it feels like surrender. I'm not letting them erase Grandma or the past, you know that, right? She nods, biting her lip, regret flickering in her eyes. I slip out the back door with my coffee, wandering to the old garden shed, green paint peeling, door swollen from last night's rain. I run my hand over the battered wood. Inside, tools hang where my father left them, each one mapped to a story. My favorite's the garden trowel, initials worn thin from years of use. I pluck it from its nail and step into the morning. The sky's a bright, merciless blue, no hint of thunder, just sunlight sharp enough to sting. Across the street, Ron and Beth Wells are pulling weeds in unison, perfect as a picture for the HOA newsletter. Ron waves, too cheery. Beth watches me from beneath her hat brim, lips pinched. I nod, not trusting myself to say anything. Their yard is so precise, it looks artificial, like it was cut from a magazine and glued on the earth. I wonder if Denise measured their hedges or if friendship makes some things invisible. I kneel by the daisies, tracing the lines between cobblestones. My mother taught me how to coax blooms from tired soil. You can't bully flowers, Evie, she'd say. You have to coax them, show them patience. Denise wouldn't understand patience if it bit her. She'd fine a tree for growing crooked. A sudden movement makes me glance up. Len Fulton, HOA board treasurer, is shuffling by, his briefcase clutched tight, tie askew. He nods, avoiding my eyes. There's something apologetic in his gait, like he wants to say something but can't. He hesitates at my mailbox, fumbles a slip of paper and keeps walking. I fish out the note, just an HOA bulletin, nothing more. But the back has a handwritten scrawl. Meeting tonight, might help to listen. I tuck the note into my pocket, heart quickening. Maybe I'm not as alone as I thought. Before I head inside, I plant the trowel deep in the earth, marking the line where daisies meet grass. Not an act of defiance, an act of remembrance. Some things I decide are worth defending in ink, even if the world insists on rewriting the rules. By dusk, the daisies cast long shadows across the yard, and the air in Hollow Oaks feels thick with anticipation. The trowel stands as my silent border post, and I keep glancing at the folded note from Len Fulton. Meeting tonight, might help to listen. I can't decide if it's a warning or a reluctant invitation. Maddie lingers in the hallway, watching me tie my jacket. "You're not going to back down, are you?" she asks, a half-smile twisting her mouth. "Not a chance," I tell her, but my voice is softer than I'd like. She hugs me quick, mumbling, "Be careful with Denise. She collects grudges." The HOA clubhouse is just 3 blocks away, white clapboard, big fake columns, and the smell of old lemon cleaner. I slide into a seat in the back row, eyes on the door. Denise is already there, stacked files at her elbow, lips pursed in that permanent scowl. Len sits near her, hands fluttering with a stack of financials, trying to keep his head down. The other board members, the same faces I've seen at every block party, stare straight ahead, avoiding everyone's gaze. Denise wraps her pen on the table. "First order of business! Compliance reviews. We've got several outstanding issues." She glances my way, a smile tight as piano wire, "including the Morgan property." A couple of whispers ripple through the room. Len clears his throat, but the sound dies in his chest. I catch his eye. He looks away. Guilt written in the way his fingers drum the tabletop. I jot notes on my phone, listening as Beth Wells stands to complain about debris in the storm drain. Her voice shakes, but she tries to sound important. Ron nods along, jaw set. They both glance at me like I'm the neighborhood's bad apple. Denise scans her list. And let's not forget unsanctioned plantings. The bylaws are very clear, people. If we let one person bend the rules, we lose all order. She's building her case, stoking fear, hoping to make me an example. Len tries to interrupt. Maybe we should... He stops, tongue-tied, hands trembling over his paperwork. He looks older tonight, shoulders curled in. Denise shoots him a glare that could freeze a bonfire. Thank you, Len. As I was saying, standards are what keep Hollow Oaks special. She calls for a vote to raise violation fines. The room is silent. No one wants to be first, but Beth raises her hand, then Ron. Len hesitates, his palm hovering in midair, lips working. I see the sweat on his brow. Finally, his hand goes up, half-hearted, shame painted all over it. When the meeting breaks for refreshments, I linger by the water cooler. Len shuffles over, careful to keep his voice low. Evelyn, look, I'm sorry about all this. Some things are out of my hands. Denise, she's persuasive. His eyes dart toward her, and he fidgets with the strap on his watch, like he's trying to loosen a noose. I lean in. Len, you remember when my parents organized the spring cleanup? You brought donuts for the whole block, wouldn't let anyone pay you back. He flushes, voice wavering. That was a long time ago. Things change. Not everything, I say. You don't have to let her bully you. I wish I sounded more convincing. Lynn just shrugs, mouth tight. It's not that easy. People talk. She's got something on everybody. He drops his gaze, but in that silence I hear more than he says. There's fear there, sure, but regret too. A longing for the old days when a neighborhood felt like home, not a battlefield. Before he turns away, he presses a slip of paper into my palm. Just read it, he whispers, voice trembling. His fingers are icy. When I unfold it later, I see a draft, old bylaw language, heavily edited, Denise's handwriting everywhere. Back outside, the wind's picking up, carrying the smell of fresh mulch and ozone. I look back at the clubhouse, lights burning late. Denise is still inside, talking low and fast with Beth, the two of them glancing out the window. Len's shadow crosses the blinds, shoulders slumped. Walking home, I feel that old anger start to simmer. But there's something else. Possibility. Maybe Len's more trapped than complicit. Maybe there are cracks in Denise's wall, if I'm patient enough to find them. Ever seen a neighborhood like this, where the real battles happen over garden beds and bylaws? Tell me in the comments, what's the most ridiculous HOA rule or neighbor power play you've witnessed? And where are you watching from tonight? Your stories might just help someone else find their own crack in the wall. I barely sleep after the meeting. My mind's racing, replaying Len's shaky apology and the look Denise shot across the clubhouse, like she'd already mapped out her next attack. By morning, I'm up before sunrise, boots crunching dew-wet grass, waiting for whatever fresh compliance trick she's cooked up overnight. Turns out, I don't have to wait long. A new warning is taped crooked to my mailbox. Improper mailbox height, 41.5 inches. Regulation, 42 inches. The paper's damp, ink bleeding. I almost laugh. Half an inch? It's so petty, it's almost performance art. I snatch it down, ball it up, and toss it toward the compost, missing by a mile. Inside, Maddie's already making coffee. Another love letter? She asks, glancing at the wrinkled warning in my fist. Apparently we're a menace to the postal service now, I mutter. She grins, eyes bright, but I see the worry lurking behind her bravado. I spend the morning fixing what isn't broken. I drag out a measuring tape, a wooden ruler, and just to spite Denise, a spaghetti noodle. 42 inches, give or take a strand of linguine, I declare to the squirrels. The act is absurd, but my mood lifts a notch with every minute spent, turning her rulebook into a joke. I leave the noodle draped over the mailbox as a dare. By midday, a bright orange sticker appears on Maddie's car. Improper parking. Encroachment on grass. Maddie stands at the curb, hands on hips, reading it aloud in her best game show voice. Congratulations, you've won a free headache. A couple of kids on bikes giggle as they roll by. I see Mrs. Tran, 2 doors down, peek through her curtains. Her eyes meet mine. Something sympathetic there. Maybe a warning. She doesn't wave. But she doesn't look away either. Beth and Ron Wells glide past on their afternoon walk, arms linked. Beth slows, eyes sweeping over my yard, every petal and blade. I heard there's a special meeting about landscape violations next week, she says, loud enough for anyone within earshot. Ron nods along, clutching his thermos like it's a lifeline. Rules are rules, you know. It's what keeps this place nice. I'll be sure to bring my spaghetti, I reply, voice even. Beth's smile falters. Ron looks away. A little later, Denise herself arrives, clip-clopping up my drive like a lawyer headed to court. Ms. Morgan, we've noticed several ongoing infractions. She starts listing them, one after the other. Mailbox, wildflowers, unapproved birdhouse, lawn edging. Every sentence ends with the threat of escalation. Her tone is chilly, like she's reading obituaries, not garden notes. I cut her off. How many more citations before you come after my welcome mat? Her mouth twitches. There are procedures for complaints, Evelyn. You could learn a lot by reviewing the handbook. Her eyes flick to the daisies, then to my trowel, which I spin in my hand like a baton. I catch her watching, unsettled. I step closer, lowering my voice. If you're trying to break me, it's going to take more than a parking sticker and a ruler. My family built this place before you could spell bylaw. Denise stiffens, but for once, she doesn't snap back. Instead, she glances up and down the street, checking who's watching. Maddie comes out just as Denise leaves. You keep poking the bear, she says. She's gonna snap. Let her, I mutter, tucking Len's note and the edited bylaws into my pocket. Bears don't like spotlights. Neither do bullies. As evening settles, I head out to water the garden. Mrs. Tran crosses her lawn, pauses at my edge. Be careful, she whispers, barely audible. Things are different now. Don't let them corner you. Her hand trembles around the watering can, and before I can respond, she hurries away. The sun dips behind the pecan tree, shadows stretching long and sharp. Every small violation is a pebble in my shoe. Irritating, relentless, but I refuse to limp. Tonight, I mark my calendar for next week's meeting. I don't know what Denise is planning, but I'm done playing defense. Night falls heavy over Hollow Oaks, pressing in with a thunderhead promise. After Denise's parade of violations, the house feels almost conspiratorial, each floorboard creaking, the pipes groaning like old bones settling a score. I light a candle in the kitchen, half out of habit, half to keep from waking Maddie as I tiptoe into the hallway. The orange spaghetti noodle still hangs from the mailbox, glinting in the moonlight like a dare. Let Denise try to write me up for culinary sabotage. I find myself staring out the back window, past the tired shed to the old willow tree, its branches weeping into shadow. When I was a kid, I'd dig for treasure beneath its roots, convinced my parents had buried something just for me. I close my eyes. If they hid anything, maybe it wasn't just for a child's game. Maybe they meant it for moments like this. There's a storm rolling in, the kind that flickers the lights and rattles the windows. I grab a flashlight, the beam pale and uncertain, and head for the basement. The air is damp, earthy, thick with the scent of rain-soaked concrete. Each step down feels heavier, as if I'm carrying all my family's memories on my back. The basement's a jumble of old furniture, cardboard boxes, half-broken Christmas ornaments. I push aside a trunk labeled Dad's Tools, nearly tripping over a stack of yellowed garden catalogs. The light wobbles, casting strange shadows on the wall. My heart pounds faster, not out of fear, but hope. Somewhere in this clutter, there's got to be something to help me push back. I kneel near a box that smells faintly of cedar. My hands shake as I rifle through brittle letters, water-stained photos, receipts from hardware stores long gone. Tucked beneath a faded folder, I spot a corner of thick, creamy paper. Different from the rest. I tug it out. A handwritten note from my father. The script neat, careful. It's dated the year before he died. Evie, if you're reading this, you're probably fighting someone who wants to take the easy way out. Remember what we built. The Garden Covenant protects you. Don't let them say otherwise. Len knows the truth. Trust the original files. Thunder booms overhead. The lights sputter, then flicker back. I read the note twice, memorizing every word. I'd always known my father took pride in the garden, but this, It feels like he's right here, urging me to stand my ground. I spot a small brass key taped to the inside of the folder. My breath catches, old, tarnished, maybe for a lockbox or desk drawer. "Trust the original files," he'd written. What original files? A scraping noise overhead makes me freeze. Just the wind, I hope, or maybe Maddie up for water. I tuck the letter and key in my pocket, nerves jangling, and edge back upstairs. The whole house is dark now except for the candle on the kitchen table. I pass the window and spot Len across the street, pacing his porch, hands deep in his pockets. Our eyes meet for a split second, long enough to know he's restless too. Hollow Oaks is restless tonight, every shadow bristling with secrets. At the kitchen table, I spread out everything I've found. The bylaw edits Len slipped me, my father's letter, the brass key, Denise's parade of petty warnings. Rain beats against the glass, a rhythm as steady as my heartbeat. The willow branches shudder in the wind. My phone buzzes, a message from an unknown number. Be careful, some things can't be fixed once they're broken. I don't know if it's Len or Mrs. Tran, but the message only stiffens my resolve. I stare at the brass key. Tomorrow, I'll search every locked box in this house, every forgotten drawer, until I find what my father left behind. Tonight, I let myself believe he's still fighting beside me. Outside, thunder rumbles, and the willow tree bends but never breaks. I won't break either. Not now. Not with the truth so close I can taste it. The next morning, the storm's all but blown out, leaving behind a world scrubbed sharp and new. Sunlight glimmers off puddles in the yard, and every blade of grass sparkles with dew. I stand at the window with my father's letter and the tiny brass key, feeling like a code breaker on the edge of something big. The willow sways gentle in the breeze, no sign of last night's violence, just the hush of things waiting to be revealed. Maddie's sprawled on the sofa, phone in hand, groaning about night shift drama at the dispatcher's office. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she says, not glancing up. "Did Denise finally try to arrest you for dandelions?" "Not yet," I reply, voice thin as the morning light, "but I might have something she can't erase." I flash the key, and for the first time all week, Maddie sits up, curiosity sparking in her eyes. We comb the house, every cupboard and corner, giggling and arguing like old times. I find myself drawn to the attic. Hottest room in the house, the one my parents always kept locked after a squirrel incident decades back. The lock is stubborn, but the brass key slides in smooth like it's been waiting for this day. The door groans open, and I'm hit with a rush of mothballs and sun-baked wood. The attic is chaos. Old trunks, suitcases, holiday wreaths long past their prime. Dust swirls in the shaft of sunlight. I kneel by a battered lockbox pushed against the far wall, the same kind Dad used for keepsakes. Heart thumping, I twist the key. The lid pops. Inside there's a bundle of yellowed papers, all tied with a ribbon the color of faded sky. I thumb through the stack. Original HOA charters, signed by the very first residents, including my father. And there, in bold pen, is the Community Garden Covenant, spelling out that every homeowner may cultivate their land as they see fit, flowers, fruit, or wild prairie, with explicit protection against capricious enforcement. The pages are notarized, the seal crisp and clear. There's more, a ledger of meeting minutes, handwritten by my mother, recording every change, every debate, every attempt at revision. I spot Len's signature, youthful and steady, on the original bylaws. Denise's name doesn't appear once, not until the most recent pages, where her edits turn protective clauses into weapons. I call Maddie up and we sit on the attic floor, sunlight on our legs, pouring over the documents. She reads aloud, "No board member may single out or harass a resident for personal reasons." She grins. "I bet Denise never expected you'd find this." My relief spills over into laughter, part joy, part disbelief. She's been rewriting history, but the truth was up here all along. Downstairs, I spread the documents across the dining table, every page a shield against Denise's next attack. The letter from Dad rests atop the stack, the brass key gleaming beside it. For the first time since this all began, I feel the ground shift in my favor. Len appears at my porch mid-afternoon, hands shaking around his coffee. He peers through the screen, eyes wide. "I saw your light on last night," he says, voice barely above a whisper. "Did you find it?" I let him in and show him the covenant, the old charters, his own signature from years ago. His shoulders sag as he traces the ink. We tried to protect folks from this, from people like Denise. He looks at me, something fierce in his expression. She threatened my wife, Evelyn. That's how she keeps us in line. I lay a gentle hand on his arm. You don't have to hide anymore, Len. You helped plant these seeds. Now it's time to let them grow. The words come out stronger than I feel, but I see hope flicker in his eyes. As Lynn leaves, I watch the willow tree catch the last of the sun. It bends, graceful, but never breaks. Just like this house. Just like the legacy my parents left behind. The truth, it turns out, was always here, waiting to be unlocked. Have you ever discovered something about your home or your neighborhood that changed everything? Drop your story or the wildest HOA rule you've heard in the comments. And where are you tuning in from? Your voice might be just what someone else needs to dig up their own truth. By nightfall, there's a strange calm in the house. Less a peace, more the silence before a curtain rises. The covenant, the minutes, the faded signatures. They're spread across the dining table, proof that my parents' intentions were written in ink, not just memory. I walk the yard at dusk, brushing my palm against the willow's lowest branch, letting the hush settle into my bones. The air's got that charged, almost electric feeling, like something about to crack open. There's a knock at the door, soft, hurried. I peek out and see Len on the porch, his jacket collar turned up against the chill. He checks the street before stepping in, eyes darting. Can't stay long, he mutters. Denise? She's watching everyone, closer now. He glances at the table, the documents splayed out like battle plans. You really found it, he breathes. All these years? He takes a seat, his hands restless, never still. You know I wanted to do something back when it started to go sideways, but every time I'd tried, Denise twisted things. She said if I didn't fall in line, she'd have the IRS look into my accounts. Said she knew people at City Hall. I couldn't risk it, not with Marla's health. He rubs his brow, fighting tears. It was easier to keep my head down. I'm sorry, Evelyn, I really am. I pour him a mug of coffee, push over the bundle of bylaws. You were there at the start. My father trusted you. I do too. I just need one thing. Proof that Denise rewrote these rules without proper votes. Len hesitates, pulls a flash drive from his breast pocket. I've got recordings. She made us meet off the record last winter, just her and Beth and Ron. She dictated the changes, told us to sign blank pages, said she'd fill in the details later. He smiles, brittle. I kept a backup, just in case things ever got this bad. I feel something in my chest loosen, like a window cracking after a long, stuffy season. Len looks at me, something new in his expression. Relief, maybe? Hope? You should know she's planning to hit you with a formal citation at the board meeting, try to force a vote to fine you out of compliance. I overheard her talking to Beth. She wants you humiliated, Evelyn, wants to scare everyone else off. I meet his eyes, steady. Let her try. She doesn't own the truth. Len, we do. You in? He swallows, then nods, a kind of stubborn fire lighting behind his glasses. Yeah, it's time someone stood up. As he leaves, I watch him straighten his shoulders, walk taller. Maybe this neighborhood isn't as lost as I thought. The night's deep and clear, stars peeking between the branches. I think of my parents, my mother's laugh, my father's big, steady hands in the dirt. They'd have loved this, people fighting for something real. Inside, I boot up my old laptop, fingers trembling. I transfer Len's recordings, back up every file, organize the original charters, and write out a timeline of everything Denise has changed. I even print out copies, tucking them in an envelope marked, Community Not Compliance. There's a pulse of purpose in my blood, a stubborn pride. Maddie calls on her break from the dispatcher's desk. You're still up? Don't tell me you're plotting revolution in your pajamas. Her teasing cuts through the tension. Just organizing, I say. Got some help. You know anyone at the county recorder's office? She laughs. I'll ask. Who knew a flower bed would turn into a criminal investigation? We talk for a bit, her voice warm and reassuring. I realize this fight isn't just about daisies or bylaws. It's about standing up, about drawing a line and holding it. Hollow Oaks is my home. My parents built it, and I'm not letting anyone erase that story. Before I sleep, I open the back door and stand under the willow, breathing in the cool night. The garden's dark, but not empty. full of roots, memory, and now, finally, allies. Tomorrow, Denise can bring her citation. I'm ready for her. Morning comes like a challenge, sun cutting through blinds, waking me before the alarm. The willow's shadow dances on the bedroom wall. I lie there a moment, listening for the old sounds, my parents' laughter, the kettle whistling, my own heartbeat thumping out something close to hope. I'm not sure. I've slept so deeply in months. Over breakfast, I line up the evidence on the table. Documents, flash drive, notes, printouts. Enough paper to make any bureaucrat nervous. Maddie pokes at her cereal, eyeing my mess of files. "Gonna take them down at dawn?" she jokes, but there's pride in her voice. "You bet," I say, sliding a folder into my bag. "But I want backup." I spend the next hours tracking down neighbors, planting seeds of truth in every wary conversation. Mrs. Tran answers her door with wary eyes. "I heard about your flowers," she says, voice hushed. "They came from my garden last year. Said my lilacs were disruptive to the uniform aesthetic." Her hands twist together, and she lowers her voice. "They find me twice before I just stop planting." I show her the original covenant, the signatures, lens recordings. "We're not alone," I whisper. "But we have to stand together." Mrs. Tran's shoulders straighten. "If you go to the meeting, I'll sit with you. Somebody has to." I visit the retired HOA lawyer who once played cards with my parents, a sharp-eyed woman named Nora Simmons. She studies the charter and minutes, a slow grin spreading across her face. Oh, they are in for a surprise. Denise never filed a legitimate amendment. Any action she's taken is legally void, and if she tries to fine you now, that's retaliation. I'll be there to say it. By noon, word has started to ripple down the block. I catch sight of Len walking with Marla, his wife, her arm tucked into his. They wave, an open, honest wave, not the skittish nods I've grown used to. Even Beth and Ron Wells look less certain, their glances toward my house now mixed with curiosity, not just disapproval. Back home, I dig up the wilting rose bush that's been losing its fight against Denise's weed killer. Maddie helps me replant it under the willow's wide sweep. "Grandma always said everything deserved a second chance," she says. Dirt smears her cheek, and for a second I see her as a child again, helping her grandfather plant bulbs on a cold spring day. Maybe this time it'll stick. I find a moment to call Officer Santos, the local cop who's watched this drama unfold from the sidelines. He laughs when I tell him about the parade of violations. "You're not the only house on my route with a file this thick, but you're the first to come armed with evidence, not just complaints. If you need me at that meeting, just say the word." The support feels like armor. By late afternoon, my nerves are jangling, but every time I pass the willow, I touch its bark. Steady, grounded. I print flyers with the Garden Covenant's language and tuck them into mailboxes, a gentle nudge. Not angry, just factual. "Know your rights," I scribble at the bottom. Maddie sits across from me as the sun sets, the documents stacked neatly, her hand covering mine. "Whatever happens, you did right by them," she says, nodding toward the willow, the roses, the house that's held us all together. "And you did right by yourself." For the first time, I feel the neighborhood shifting, not by force, but by quiet momentum. Denise's power was always in silence, in isolation. Tonight, I hear the hum of something waking up, truth, and the kind of courage that grows best when it's been trampled. Tomorrow is the meeting. Tonight, for the first time, I don't feel alone. Sleep comes fitful, the hours before dawn rolling over with nerves and adrenaline. I watch headlights flick past my window, count the soft creaks of the house settling in its bones. At breakfast, the tension is thick enough to spread on toast. Maddie checks her phone, coffee in hand, as if waiting for a message that'll decide the whole day. "You ready?" she asks, voice husky from lack of sleep. "You look like you're prepping for court, not a garden club brawl." I smirked, stuffing the Garden Covenant and recordings into my old canvas bag. "Denise wants a war. She's about to get one with receipts." The sky outside is a harsh blue, all sun and no warmth. As I slip out, Maddie calls after me. "Don't let her get under your skin. I don't promise anything. I'm tired of being reasonable." The board meeting's in the old clubhouse again. Today, the crowd is bigger than I've ever seen. Neighbors packed into folding chairs, murmurs rising in nervous little waves. Mrs. Tran greets me at the door, her hand trembling in mine. Nora Simmons, the retired lawyer, stands at the back, her blazer sharp as a battle flag. Denise presides at the head table, smug in a new scarf, flanked by Beth and Ron like a queen holding court. Her smile fades as she catches sight of my bulging folder. "Let's bring the meeting to order," she says, clipped and icy. "First on the agenda? Ongoing violations at the Morgan residence." I rise before she can launch into her speech. "Before we talk about my supposed infractions, I'd like to address the board with some information. I pass out copies of the original charter, the community garden covenant, the bylaw changes. Every page stamped, signed, and indisputable." Denise's jaw works back and forth. "These documents are outdated, irrelevant." "They're legal," Nora cuts in, her voice ringing across the room, "and the bylaws can't be changed without due process or a majority vote, which you never held." Beth tries to mutter something, but the crowd is already shifting, whispers growing sharper. Len raises his hand, voice steadier than I've ever heard. "I was there when the original rules were signed. Evelyn's right. We've lost the spirit of what this neighborhood's supposed to be." For a split second, Denise looks rattled, but she rallies fast. "We're not here to debate history. We're here to maintain standards, and I have every right to escalate if necessary." She snaps her fingers, and almost theatrically her phone comes out. She dials, eyes boring into mine. "This is Denise Harrington, HOA president. I need police assistance at the clubhouse. Yes, now." There's an aggressive resident making threats and refusing to comply. A hush drops, eyes turn toward me. I don't flinch. "My daughter works dispatch," I say, calm and clear. "Call if you want, but the only threat here is the truth." On cue, Maddie's voice cuts through the speaker. 911, what's your emergency?" Denise stiffens. "Yes, this is a legal matter. Someone is—" Maddie interrupts, professional and unbothered. "Ma'am, unless there's immediate danger or a crime, I can't dispatch an officer. Please resolve your civil dispute through proper channels." I almost grin watching Denise's color drain. Laughter breaks out, tension snapping like a twig. Officer Santos appears in the doorway, arms folded. "Everything all right in here?" he asks, eyeing Denise. "Sure looks peaceful to me." Denise fumbles for words, but the room has turned. Neighbors are whispering, smiling, even nodding in my direction. Mrs. Tran squeezes my hand. Nora offers a wink. Len stands taller than I've ever seen him. And just like that, Denise's power shrinks to nothing. Truth, it turns out, is louder than her rules. Ever seen someone try to use power and paperwork to shut you down, only for the truth to flip the script? Share your wildest neighborhood or HOA showdown in the comments, and let me know where you're following along from. Your story might be exactly what gives someone else the guts to stand up. As Officer Santos reassures the crowd that no laws have been broken, Denise slips her phone into her bag with a snap. Her eyes don't meet mine, and for the first time since this started, I see cracks in her confidence, a flicker of uncertainty. The room's energy has shifted. Neighbors who once dodged my gaze now linger nearby, waiting to see what comes next. Nora Simmons, sharp as a hawk, clears her throat. "If the board has any further business, let's hear it. Otherwise, I'd like to make a motion to address the validity of all recent fines and citations, starting with those against Evelyn Morgan." Her words ring out, slicing through the tension like fresh air after rain. Ron and Beth exchange a look, clearly unsettled. Even Len looks surprised at Nora's boldness, but then his hand shoots up in support. Beth tries to regain control, her voice wobbling. I think we should table this discussion until next month, maybe consult outside counsel. But she's drowned out by a chorus of no and a few scattered claps from the back of the room. Someone mutters, "About time," and I spot Mrs. Tran in the crowd, chin up, eyes blazing with something fierce and new. I step forward, not needing to raise my voice. This isn't just about my garden, it's about everyone who's been bullied into silence or forced to give up something they loved because it didn't fit someone else's idea of order. I hold up the old covenant, the signatures bold in the overhead light. This document, these signatures, are the real law here. And if that's not respected, then what are we even doing pretending this is a community? Denise opens her mouth, but Nora doesn't give her a chance. I move for a vote, effective immediately, to rescind all invalid fines, to suspend the president's authority pending a review of her actions, and to reinstate the original charter protections. I'll happily act as interim legal advisor for the board until a proper election is held. Ron shifts in his seat, mumbles something about always following Denise's lead. For once, nobody is following. Len's voice is steady, seconded. He meets my gaze, and I see in his eyes the same steadiness I felt under the willow, the kind that comes from knowing you're on the right side, even if it took too long to get here. It's not a landslide, but it's enough. Hands rise across the room, tentative at first, then with gathering conviction. Even Beth, caught in the tide, finally lifts hers. The vote is recorded. The gavel strikes the table with a dull, satisfying thud. Denise sits, stone-faced, lips pressed so tight they're white. The meeting ends in a swirl of relieved chatter. Neighbors gather around, some apologizing for not stepping up sooner, others asking questions about the old rules and what comes next. Nora reassures them, her tone cool but reassuring, that justice can still be reclaimed, one signature at a time. Len leans in close as people disperse. I always thought standing up would be harder, he whispers, almost sheepish. Turns out you just needed someone to go first. We shake hands, firm, honest, no more secrets between us. Maddie sweeps in from the back, wraps me in a hug that smells of coffee and relief. You did it, Mom, she breathes. No, we did. I look out at the clubhouse, the crowd thinning, the evening air bright with a kind of quiet possibility. For the first time, Hollow Oaks feels like it might actually be home again. As I step outside, I catch a final glimpse of Denise through the window, hunched over her stack of bylaws, staring at a world that no longer bends to her rules. For once, I don't feel the need to look away. The next morning, Hollow Oaks buzzes like it hasn't in years. Windows thrown open, neighbors on porches swapping news instead of rumors. It's a lightness I'd forgotten the street could hold. Word's already out. Denise has been suspended, and there's a new board meeting tonight, open to everyone. Maddie and I spend the day prepping, but not in the old way. No more scanning for violations taped to the mailbox, no nervous glances over our shoulders. This time we tidy up for company. She arranges cut flowers, daisies of course, in a chipped blue vase. I bake a batch of cinnamon rolls the way my mother did before block parties. It smells like possibility and memory. When the sun dips, I head over early. The clubhouse feels different. Someone's opened the blinds, letting light pour across every table. Mrs. Tran is already there, her shy wave replaced by a bright smile. Len's out front, setting up extra chairs. There's chatter, not whispers. Even Beth and Ron seem to breathe easier, as if the whole place has been let out of a tight fist. Nora, in crisp navy, calls the meeting to order. Tonight we welcome all voices. Let's do things right. Her words are simple, but they're a bell rung after a long silence. We move through the agenda, and for once, it isn't just business as usual. People share what they love about their homes, their rose bushes, the old swing in the park, their memories of block picnics before the bylaws became weapons. When the floor opens, I stand. My hands shake a little, but my voice doesn't. I grew up in this house, I tell them. Everything I love about this street I learned from my parents. Hard work, stubborn hope, and how to fight for something that matters. This fight wasn't just about daisies or mailboxes or parking lines. It was about who gets to decide what belongs and who gets pushed out for being different. Every house here has a story, and if we're lucky, we get to protect it for the next family, not fence it in. I see heads nodding. Mrs. Tran dabs her eyes, Len squeezes Marla's hand, even Ron clears his throat, looking sheepish. Beth stands and apologizes, quietly but earnestly, for not stepping in sooner. We were scared, but fear's no excuse for silence. Nora makes it official. All invalid fines and actions by the previous board are rescinded. Effective immediately, we return to the founding charter. Any new rules must be voted by the whole community, and... She glances at Len with a smile. I nominate Len for interim president until elections next month. A ripple of laughter and applause fills the room. Len blushes so deep I'm sure he'll never recover, but he nods, accepting. He looks at me, his eyes wet, and mouths, "Thank you." Denise is nowhere in sight. For once, her absence doesn't loom, it's just an empty chair. The crowd is full of conversation, plans for a spring picnic, a promise to repaint the playground. For the first time, Hollow Oaks feels like a neighborhood, not a gauntlet. On my way out, Nora stops me. You know, you could run for the board. People listen to you. I shake my head, laughing. Maybe it's time I finally enjoyed my own garden, she laughs back. You earned it. Maddie meets me on the walk home, arms slung around my shoulders. How's it feel to be the talk of the town? She teases. Weird, I admit, but I'll take weird over invisible any day. As the house comes into view, porch light glowing, daisies blooming, willow tree arching over everything, I realize we've built something stronger than any rule. A community that knows its own story and isn't afraid to fight for it. Spring stirs early in Hollow Oaks that year. The morning air's bright with the scent of wet earth and promise. I wander through my front yard, trowel in hand, boots already stained with dew. There's a new ease on the block, kids biking to the park, porch swings creaking under friendly weight, laughter breaking out where silence used to rule. The mailbox stands a little crooked, proudly holding its own against the perfectionist. I leave it. I like the way it looks. Honest, lived in, ours. Maddie sits on the porch steps, coffee balanced on her knee, scrolling through her phone. You've gone viral, Mom, she says with a snort, waving a screen full of comments. Apparently you're the patron saint of stubborn gardeners. I laugh, nearly spilling dirt down my shirt. Better that than HOA horror stories. The willow tree's in full leaf now, branches swaying in the breeze. I walk over, kneeling to check the rose bush Maddie and I planted after the worst of it passed. It's thriving, tough, wild, already threatening to swallow the old bench where my father used to read the newspaper. I brush a fallen petal from the seat, feeling the wood warm under my palm. That bench has seen every storm, every argument, every celebration. It's a piece of our family that outlasted every rulebook. Neighbors drift by, some pausing to chat, others waving from across the street. Len drops off a plate of cookies, his wife's recipe, and grins. I heard you're the neighborhood's moral compass now. Better keep your trowel sharp. Mrs. Tran brings a tray of dumplings, her voice steady and kind, for luck and for flowers. Even Ron and Beth stop to say hello, lingering longer than before, their nervous energy gone. Nora Simmons strolls up the walk, legal pads under her arm, and drops onto the porch beside Maddie. No more board business today, she says, just a neighborhood coming back to life. I lean back against the willow, eyes closed, listening. Birds chatter in the branches, the low hum of conversation drifts from every yard. This is what we fought for, not just the right to plant daisies, but the right to decide what home means for ourselves. For me, it's the memory of my mother's laughter, the scratch of my father's pen on an old bylaw, Maddie's hand in mine at the worst of it. As dusk settles, I carry the old trowel to the bench, tracing the initials carved there long ago. My family's legacy isn't a secret, it's right here, in every blade of grass, every stubborn bloom, every story I get to tell. Hollow Oaks isn't perfect, but it's real. And now it's ours. I turn to Maddie, catching her smile. You know what your grandma used to say? I ask. If it matters, don't let go. Roots hold more than just plants in place. She laughs, shaking her head. Guess we're stuck here, huh? I just grin, tucking a daisy behind my ear. Some roots are meant to hold on. The porch fills up as the sun dips low. Old friends, new allies, neighbors who finally know each other's names. The house glows gold, the garden alive with memory and hope. And if Denise ever walks past, she'll see it. A bench by the willow, wild roses tumbling everywhere, the whole street refusing to be trimmed back. Justice is a garden, slow to grow but impossible to kill once it takes root. Tell me, what's your wildest HOA story or the battle you fought for your home? Drop it in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. Your story matters, just like every stubborn daisy in this yard.